Yo, what's going on? Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. Chase Sr. here with you. A lot to get into here on this Thursday afternoon. We have a double dose of good news for the Birds going into Sunday's huge game against the Detroit Lions. I want to go through some important lineup trends and take a look at some snap counts, what you should expect to see from certain players from this Eagles defense moving forward. And I'm also going to explain mathematically why this Lions game is huge for Philadelphia as far as NFC playoff implications. Before we get to all of that, I have a challenge for all of the real ones and the legends who watch this program. Can we get to 137,000 subscribers before Sunday Night Football? I think that we can get there because we're bringing the heat and we're giving you elite coverage every single day talking about the Birds right here on Eagles Now. We're 363 people away from 137,000 subscribers. Shoot, we can get there with this video. Just lock us in and hit that sub button. Also, a little bit earlier today from our live show yesterday, I published our Eagles-Lions NFL Week 11 preview. Be sure to check that video out, the most in-depth Eagles-Lions preview that you'll find on the internet. All right, let's begin here. Double dose of good news for Philadelphia's offense along their offensive line. Cam Jurgens been dealing with a knee injury over the last couple of weeks. Lane Johnson injured his left ankle against the Green Bay Packers. Both practiced today. And you can tell, starting to get a little bit colder in South Philadelphia. The grass is going from that dark green to the lighter green. And even offensive linemen, the toughest of the tough, are wearing some long sleeves and some sweatpants. But it's good to see number 51 and 65 out there. Now, Jurgens injured his knee early on against the Minnesota Vikings on the road in Week 7. And if you remember, that's really when the Eagles started to have Jalen Hurts from under center, operating runs from under center, but also the play action, like the deep shot a little bit later in the game to Devontae Smith. Early on in that game, the Eagles had a lot of success running it with Saquon Barkley with Jalen Hurts under center. Saquon even said sometimes it's easier for the running back to run when the quarterback is under center. You can see the field a little bit better, and you can get more momentum going toward the line of scrimmage. Well, as the game progressed, the Eagles' run game had gone downhill, and it suffered a little bit. That's why Jalen Hurts was forced into throwing it, and he had one of the best passing games of his NFL career. But when Cam Jurgens was on the field and Saquon was running behind him, the run game was pretty successful. So obviously he's one of the top centers in football, but with what the Eagles have been doing on offense, getting Jurgens back, his athleticism on pull blocks, getting out in space, the overall player that he is, would help out this Eagles offense, I think, throwing it and running it. But props to Brett Toth because he's played pretty well in the last couple of starts. As for Lane Johnson, injured against Green Bay, was out for a while and then came back a little bit late. And how about Fred Johnson, man? The trade for him has been so valuable for the Eagles because he's had to step in for Lane Johnson and, of course, also be a part of that jumbo package. And this is all significant because the Lions have an elite pass rush. And I know the Eagles never take opponents lightly, right? But they have gone out of their way to be very complimentary of Detroit going into the Sunday Night Football game. They know how tough they are, how physical they are, how talented they are. And a lot of people have talked about this player-wise, coaching-wise, going into this game. The Lions have the Eagles' respect. They have my respect. They should have yours. And this Lions defense, their sack rate is third in the NFL at 8.98%. They are tied for third in sacks with 30, and they're fifth in pressures with 152. So Lane Johnson, Cam Jurgens, both potentially playing in this game to go up against this Lions defense with a banged-up secondary that could go into some big things that could develop in this game as far as the keys to an Eagles victory. Jurgens this year has struggled a little bit. Coming off that offseason back surgery, the Eagles gave him that bag. He became one of the highest paid centers in football. He's been good. I just don't think he's been elite. And when he was playing, the interior of this Eagles offensive line was and still at times is struggling. It's not a Saquon Barkley issue, I don't think, with the Eagles' inability to run the ball consistently. I think it's more so been the Eagles' offensive line. And I think Jordan Mailata made a really good point on this with how much they ran it last year. they've been a little bit banged up, tired, and slow to shake off the workload from a year ago. Now, Jurgens this year, overall PFF grade 65.7. That ranks 16th among 37 centers. So that's middle of the pack as far as starters go in the NFL. Pass blocking grade 60.8, that's 22nd. Run blocking grade is 12th at 67.5. Here's the good news with Jurgens. Has not given up a sack, that's first. Has not given up a hit, that's first among centers. And he's only surrendered 6 pressures, that's sixth. Again, going up against this Lions defensive line, that's important. And Lane Johnson is still one of the best right tackles in football, and I think he might go down as the best right tackle ever. His PFF numbers down compared to prior years, but you look at the eye test, I mean, he's still been so dominant. Overall PFF grade of 77.6, that's 17th among 76 centers. Pass blocking grade is still top 10, 81.8, or 81.3, that's 8th. Run blocking grade, he struggled a little bit, but so too has the rest of this Eagles offensive line. 69.5 there, that's 29th. But like Cam Jurgens, hasn't given up a sack, hasn't given up a hit, and his pressures allowed number 7, that's 4th in the NFL. These are 2 of the top offensive linemen in football. And this Detroit defense, they have a lot of really, really good players up front, of course, led by Aiden Hutchinson, who's come off that broken leg from last year, hasn't missed a beat. So elsewhere, you look at the Eagles injury report here. Cam Jurgens with that knee injury, big brace on it as you saw in that photo, a limited participant. But everybody else, a full participant, and that does include Lane Johnson there with the ankle injury. A lot more to get to here on the show, but I do want you to predict the score for me down in the comment section right now. One of the best games all year, one of the biggest marquee matchups for the Eagles, and we just haven't got to see the Lions and Eagles match up often over the last couple of years when both of them have been some of the top teams in the NFL because they haven't met in the playoffs, obviously different divisions, and their schedules just haven't collided. Get those predictions in. I gave you my prediction for that Eagles preview that I teased a little bit earlier. Check that video out. I know you'll like it if you know ball. All right, still to come here on Eagles Now. Important lineup and snap trends and why this Lions game is huge from a math standpoint. That's all coming up just around the corner. But let's get to our sponsor, our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. Those of you who watch the show know that myself and producer Chip both join forces to give you this great Eagles content. Well, we're both from the Philadelphia area, both 4for4 Philadelphia sports fans. I used to be the host of 76ers Now. Now Chip is the host of 76ers Now. And so you'll see that our DraftKings code is Sixers Chat. That's because Chip has landed a partnership with DraftKings over on that channel, and we just want to plug that here on Eagles Now as well. And here's Chip with more info for you.
All your favorite NBA players are back, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is the place to bet on NBA stars this season. New customers, bet just $5 and get 3 months of NBA League Pass, plus score $300 if your bet wins, paid in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code SixersChat. That's code SixersChat. Bet $5 and get 3 months of League Pass, plus get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, pass-through of per-wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. NBA League Pass auto-renews until canceled. Additional terms at dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
Chip's picks right here, plus 410 on this parlay. Eagles money line against the Lions. Devontae Smith, 60-plus receiving yards. Saquon Barkley, anytime touchdown scorer. Odds and lines subject to change. That is code Sixers Chat. Chip told you about the deal, and of course, be sure to check out his content over on Philadelphia 76ers Now. A really fun start to the season for the Sixers. All right, as far as this Eagles edge rusher rotation, I thought this Eagles pass rush had their best collective effort against the Green Bay Packers on Monday Night Football, and the snap counts were very interesting during that game. One of the reasons why I really like that Jalen Phillips trade, his familiarity with Vic Fangio. And it wasn't going to take him a long time to get a lot of playing time for this Eagles defense and get acclimated with this Eagles scheme because he's already played under Vic Fangio. And so right away in his Eagles debut, Jalen Phillips led all edge rushers on the team by playing 53 of 68 defensive snaps. And man, how good was he as a pass rusher, being disruptive there. But he was also very violent against the run, did a great job of setting the edge, had a TFL, some quarterback hits, a lot of pressures, and he was in on some marquee plays throughout that football game. Jalix Hunt, opposite of him, played in 43 of the 68 snaps. And then Nolan Smith played 19 snaps. Brandon Graham played 10. I know some of you, especially for Nolan, might be saying, why were his snaps down so much? Both of those players were on a pitch count. Smith coming off the triceps, Graham, BG coming out of retirement. Their snap loads and counts are expected to increase as they just get more acclimated and healthier, obviously getting in some game shape. So that right there, 82 snaps from edge rushers who were not active on this Eagles roster 2 weeks prior. Patrick Johnson and Josh Uche were in the edge rusher rotation. They did not register a snap against the Green Bay Packers. Uche was averaging 30 snaps per game for Philadelphia going into the bye week. He didn't play at all against Green Bay. Now, he played well for the Eagles, but it goes to show you how much Howie Roseman bulked up and improved the pass rush to the point where Uche, a solid player, wasn't even getting run against Green Bay. And that was a need that Howie addressed going into the deadline. And we talked about this. How about Phillips against the Packers? I mean, my gosh, that was such a fun treat to watch him just blow up plays, blow up the game, take over and be a high-level impact player. He had 8 pressures and 7 hurries, 2 quarterback hits, a pressure rate of 19.4%, a fumble forced, a fumble recovery, and when he, alongside Reed Blankenship, helped to dislodge that football out on Josh Jacobs, that came on that critical 4th and 1 stop, which helped to win the ball game late. And I love what Jalen Phillips said about being a run defender. It's a bit of a pride thing, he added. Pass rush is more finesse, more sexy, but stopping the run is gritty. It's hard. It takes toughness. You can see why Vic Fangio really liked him in Miami and why Vic was a proponent of bringing Phillips into this defense, which is why Howie listened to his defensive coordinator, one of the top defensive minds in the history of football, and made that trade for JP. All right, I want to talk about the second level of this defense here. Vic Fangio has an interesting decision to make moving forward for this Eagles defense. How does he rotate the snaps at off-ball linebacker alongside Zach Bond between Nakobe Dean and Jahad Campbell? Both players are really good. Both players are really different. But Nakobe Dean over the last couple of games has been getting more snaps at off-ball linebacker than Jahad Campbell. Now, against Green Bay, Nakobe got 44 snaps, and he made his impact be felt. Jahad Campbell got 34 snaps, but he was used more as a Swiss Army knife, kind of a hybrid player who could play off-ball linebacker, and you saw him get penalized late on that garbage call, but also as an edge rusher. He struggles a little bit when he lines up at edge because he's one of the smallest edge rushers across the entire NFL. The one thing that has really stood out about Nakobe Dean, and this has always been the case with him going all the way back to Georgia when he was helping the Bulldogs win national titles and he was the best linebacker in the country. He's so smart. He has such great instincts. He's able to read and diagnose plays so well. He's so good against the run. You can use him as a blitzer, and Vic did that a couple of times against the Packers. He had the first strip sack of his career. And I just think that moving forward for this year, it's not a slight on Jahad Campbell. It's just because of Dean and how good he is. I think he's the better option to get more snaps at off-ball linebacker. And I think the Eagles have really benefited from how smart and heady and cerebral he is at a position that requires a lot of that. And I think over time, Campbell's going to be a really good player. He's more athletic. He's longer. And sometimes he can wow you more than Nakobe with his athleticism. But right now, it's really not a surprise, right? Because Dean has been in the league longer, and he's in the final year of his rookie contract. I just think that Dean is the better option there. Let's round out with this. Just how big is this game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football for Philadelphia? Well, going into week 11, the Eagles' chances of getting the number 1 seed, according to the New York Times playoff model, 35%. If the Eagles beat Detroit at home in primetime on Sunday night, their chances of getting the number 1 seed and home field advantage jump up to 52%. Since 2004, the Eagles have hosted NFC Championship games in 2004, 2017, 2022, 2024. They are 4-0 in those games. And as we know, Lincoln Financial Field, one of the best, if not the best, home field advantages in the National Football League, especially come playoff time when it starts to get a little bit colder. If the Eagles can get that number 1 seed, I love their chances of winning back-to-back Lombardi trophies. Don't forget to give me a follow on X and Instagram at Chase_Senior. I'm giving you so much Eagles content here. I'm always talking about the Birds on my personal social media pages. If you like some of the Hallelujah gear that I've been wearing, it's all thanks to a viewer who watches the show and sent us hoodies and shirts. Just go to howelujah.com and you can get some of that gear and support that business.